Hey, friends. Glad to see so many people here today. I can tell by the 100+ people as you guys are popping in here what a big issue strategies around staffing is. We're having fun with this. We have dedicated the entire year to being creative and positive around building a strong team, not only to provide awesome services for your current clients, but also to build a company, create opportunities for people, make your business stronger, make the value of your business stronger, also parlays into making the value of your real estate stronger. No, that sounds a little off, but that's another conversation we can have later. But thank you for joining us. We're excited. I'm really excited about today's guest speaker. And when I asked her to send me some thoughts on creative hiring strategies, I expected a couple of things because she's very smart, but she sent me about 5 pages, which really makes me excited. So what that says to me is there's some creativity in the works and some great ideas. And if you guys can take 1 or 2 of them and they make a difference in your company, then we will feel successful. So welcome again. I'm Kathe Ligon, founder here at Hinge. Doing my fun thing with you guys today and sharing information and resources to you guys to help make your business stronger. And I'm just really excited about this webinar and the other things going on. A little bit of housekeeping first. If you have not been on one of our webinars before, you have a panel over to the right of your screen. You should be able to ask questions. Almost to the bottom of the panel, there's a tab for questions. Feel free to type those in as we go. We have our wonderful Carrie Pergerson here monitoring if there's something I need to address during the masterclass. If not, we'll stop we'll do about 20 minutes of content. We'll leave about 40 minutes of content. We'll leave about 20 minutes for your questions, and I will direct those to Kathe Petchel, who has some wonderful strategies for you guys. So put your questions in there. We'll monitor that during the content, and then we'll take questions at the end. For those, we got a lot of people on this class as we did last month. If we don't get to all the questions, we will send those out to you, or we will answer those individually. So sorry in advance if we can't take them all, but we will get to you. So a couple of things, I want to give you a little bit of information before we get going here. First of all, what we have planned for this master class is, I just want to give you guys a quick update on changes in the industry just in the last month. You guys who are regulars with us will know that our first master class of the year, which was done in January, is always only an hour of a comprehensive update on what's happening in the industry. And so you can go back to our website and pull that up if you want to know what happened in the past year, and that'll give you an overview of what we see going on operationally, also in transactions for both business and real estate, and kind of a forecast for what we see happening this year. I'll give you a little update since last month, but if you want a little more information, go back to that webinar. We'll talk a bit about where this staffing issue is coming from. Some of that's common sense, but I want to tell you some things that I'm seeing in the industry. We're going to talk about how to attract quality staff to your school. You guys have a lot of competition for staff right now, and not just within the education community, with other employers for how to get quality people into your school and attract them, and how to compete with others who are also in the same boat you're in. I'm hearing this across all industries. Getting my hair cut last night. You can say I got some haircut drama going on. It's in that shock stage. And so my hairdresser who owns the studio was talking the same talk we talk all the time. And I know you guys are hearing it. Everybody is struggling with a low unemployment environment, and where we get people who we can count on in our schools. And then how, once you attract people to you, because I'm also constantly hearing I can get people to schedule interviews with me and then they don't show up. So, you know, what strategies can we put in place to be sure they actually show up? I know that sounds crazy, but it's a real issue. And then how can you conduct the process so that it's more than, you know, let's just take a pulse, you're hired. How can you do the process in a positive way that helps you recognize the right people and gets those people energized to be a part of your company in advance of actually getting the job and working with you? So that's what we have planned for you today. A couple of things, you know, so new since our last master class, a couple of trends we like to share with you guys when transactions happen in the market. We're not boasting, but we're always happy to get things done for our clients. I think it's important for you guys to know when things get listed and closed and how they're faring in the industry. You guys have heard me say many times we're in an incredibly positive environment, lots of competition for both business and real estate assets. Since we talked last time, we closed a group of 2 schools in the Michigan market. And those did very well. Happy to help our friend there get her schools closed, and she has another business venture in mind. So happy to help her move on to a different industry. Also, a couple of things, just, you know, we continue to hear, we gave you a lot of trends in January, but we do see people really working on their staff cultures. And again, this I think will be a positive outcome of the, I don't know if we want to call it a crisis, but the challenge we're having right now in attracting staff, that people are really making headway in building a strong culture of leadership and positive work environment for their staff. And it's a necessity, but I think it'll be a positive thing at the end of all of this. We're going to see, we need to see increased tuition rates. So what I call the coming tsunami that I've seen for the last 6 months, I should change that word because I'm not making you guys feel good, I know. I really feel in the last 6 months that what people are having to pay for staff is outpacing what you can charge parents for the service exponentially. And I sort of see a train wreck coming. So I'm really making it a mission to help people put strategies in to not only increase their tuition rates, but other charges in their program, and especially trying to not eliminate, but tighten some of the discounts that we give, because often those can get you farther from an overall income standpoint than actually increasing your tuition rates. Our February, or maybe that was March, our second master class of the year was just on that. It was just on talking about how you manage your staff costs. So everything related to what you should be spending in different staffing categories and strategies around getting you there, and how the balance between your tuition rates and your staff costs works. Because often I hear people, they're so frustrated, they can't quite get the ratio right, and they've done everything they can, and they're sending people home, and they're scheduling well, and you know, the problem is not at the end of the day how they're managing their staff cost. It's more in what they're charging parents and or their occupancy. So until you can get your school at least to a certain level of occupancy, it's really tough to hit the numbers you need to manage your staff well. So go back to that webinar if you have questions about how it works financially, and we're happy to be a resource there. Obviously, continued staff struggles. That's why we're here. In the last month, there has been some proposals on the federal level to double the amount of the federal development block grant program. The block grant program is our nation's main source of subsidy funding. It flows through to your state in another name. So you might, whatever your state subsidy is, and your state either doesn't match it or matches it partially or matches it fully. It's up to each state. But there's been a proposal on the federal level to increase that funding by doubling it. So people who participate in subsidy funding will find this attractive if you have multiple schools or a single school, and your school's located in a geographic area that maybe is changing. It's, don't fight it. And this is something we can talk more about if it's of particular interest to you. But if you need to shift over to accepting a certain level of subsidy in your school, then there are some benchmarks, certain percentages of your total that you can hit in subsidy that don't affect, in my opinion, the overall culture of the school and also the overall value of the school. But look for that. I think we'll keep more information flowing on that, but hopefully that will actually happen, at least to some degree. A couple of events coming up. We started in the fall of this year with our one-day Thrive events. Thrive is a really deep dive for a business owner into building a benchmark that compares their company with what a financially healthy company should look like. But we help each person develop their own benchmark specific to their school. We did our first one in Nashville in November. We had so much fun. We maxed out at 100 participants really quickly. We'll also limit this one to 100 because we want to give a lot of individualized attention. We'll do a lot of group case studies. We have a couple of interesting guest speakers, and then we work one-on-one with people at the end of the day to be sure that they get the benchmark they need before they leave there. So look for an announcement on registration there. We're arranging a fun, not a shuttle, it's I'm looking at Carrie. Okay, it's anyway, trolley. A fun trolley. There we go, a trolley over to the baseball game the night before. So that should be fun. So a little bit of fun along with learning how to be sure that the basic financial processes are in place in your school and create a benchmark. You could also call a budget for your school. So look for that. Our shift conference will be launched in a month or two. We had a great time there. Also in San Diego this year, 3-day conference. Next year in Austin. Shift is designed to bring together people across the country who are doing interesting things in our industry. We had investors from the real estate community. We had the CEO from the nation's largest childcare group. We had 40 speakers, so I can't really name them all, but they were fabulous. So we're already putting together content for that for next year. So put that on your calendar and look for it. So let's jump into this thing. I want to call in my buddy Kathe Petchel here and get her lovely face up here with me. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Kathe Petchel. Kathe, where are you? Charlottesville?
I'm actually in Santa Barbara, California right now.
Oh, okay. Well, Kathe and I will not tell you northern friends about the 81 degrees that's here in South Carolina, nor the whatever Kathe has in Santa Barbara. Too late. Guess I did that. Thank you, Kathe, for joining us. Kathe, I've asked Kathe to be our industry expert on this first phase of staff conversation, because I want to start at the very beginning, which is how do you even attract the right people? Well, as we go through this year, we'll go all the way through teaming, and we'll talk about how to best manage staff and how to give them advancement opportunities. So we're gonna, and how to, help counsel them when things aren't quite right. So we'll go through all of that, but on this very beginning, I know that Kathe has built a fabulous team of people in her 4 schools in Charlottesville, Virginia. She's been in the business since 1984 and has some great people on her team. So I know that she has secrets. And I know that we're going to get her to spill them all to us. So I appreciate, Kathe, you being here. And I know that Kathe is one of the most genuine and giving people I know. So I know that she will give you her right arm if you ask her for it. So we'll keep it to some brain space and not ask you for the arm today. But thanks for being here.
I'm happy to be here. I'm really excited to share any little tips I've got. I think we're all in this together, and anytime we can come together and brainstorm and just build upon each other's ideas, it's better for the industry and especially better for the children.
Absolutely. And I love that attitude. It always, I do talk to a lot of people who think that, there are people who do some things better than others, but we're all really stronger when we're all stronger. So if we all would lift each other up as you do, then I think as an industry, we would be so much better off. So thank you for that attitude. So let's start. Talk to us a little bit about how you find quality staff. We got a little echo, so I'm gonna ask the question, then I'm gonna mute myself so we don't get that. It's probably on my end. So talk to us a little bit about what are the vehicles you use, or where do you go to even start the process of finding quality staff?
That's the $64,000 question for sure. So I'll just talk about my team for a minute. One of my philosophies is we're never fully hired. It's just like we're never fully enrolled. The minute you think you're fully enrolled, karma hits you, and all of a sudden a new center comes in down the street, a factory or a business closes, and the children leave, and you're quick scrambling to have your rooms full. Same thing with staffing. Anytime I think I'm full, I know I'm not. First of all, I'm always looking to coach up or coach out my staff, and so that means I always have to have what I would call a bench in my back pocket ready to go. One thing we're doing at Bright Beginnings, and a lot of my friends are doing right now, is working with this book Traction, and it really helps one's team focus on what they need to do. And in my particular case, we decided that we had a quarterly goal of really improving our staff turnover and really improving our clarity of the type of staff we wanted to have and the type of staff we wanted to invest in to keep. And so this quarter we have 4 goals. They're called rocks in Traction, and 3 out of 4 of them have to do with staff retention or staff hiring. So we just are very much laser focused on hiring. So just to, just the bottom line would be always overhire. You're never fully hired. And then that way you can grow your bench. And then when an opportunity comes and Kathe Ligon calls you and says, hey, there's a center down the street, do you want to buy it? You're ready to go. And you can grab a couple of your staff from all your locations, and voila, you're ready to go. So that's the first thing. And then just specifically hiring quality staff, I'm going to talk about just a couple of the unique things we do, or the creative things my friends might do. Obviously, the easy peasy one is your happy customers. Any of your staff, your customers, the parents, they're at the bus stop every day, they're at work every day, they're at cocktail parties and wine and cheeses on the weekends, they're at the soccer field, and just letting them know that you're always looking for staff that are as good as the ones we have, and then being generous on a referral for them. Usually I do at least 1 or 2 weeks of tuition, and I agree with Kathe completely about being really careful where those pennies leak out. But to me, first of all, the parents are really excited that they helped your program, and that they have a lot of pride that they helped you recruit someone. So typically more people have buy-in that way. And then second, and this is the math piece that Kathe Ligon's so good at, really get clear on what your cost of turnover is. And in the industry, it's between $5,000 and $8,000 per position. Guys, that's unbelievable, per position. And when you think about it, you think that's a ridiculous number. It's not. You think about how much time it costs you to interview and hire, onboard, get fingerprinting and all the criminal record check done, how long it takes you to just do the interviewing in the beginning, And then, of course, anytime there's turnover, it's very traumatic for the parents and the children. So then parents tend to maybe not give you enough grace and enough time to get it corrected. So then you've got loss of income. And then there's emotional and financial expense for the director. The director's not doing his or her job as director, and he or she is in a classroom. So just in general, get really clear. I promise you, if you take nothing else away, just being really clear that having a deep bench of staff ready to go and that you're never fully hired is key. So happy customers, your happy staff, obviously that's a really easy one. I ask my staff to send me candidates as good as you are. So I'm first of all building them up that you're wonderful. I only want people as good as you. And then I'm asking them to really stretch their brain a little bit. You know, some of the gals are, you know, baristas at Starbucks. That's a great resource. I mean, they meet and talk to people all day. We want people that can communicate and that are positive with parents. And, you know, Starbucks and companies like that do an amazing job with their customer service. And we're in the customer service business. So asking my happy staff, and of course I'm generous with the referral to them. $50 to $100 is really low, honestly. I'll give them a Bright Beginnings t-shirt. I might take them to lunch. I might give them a gift card to their favorite, nail salon, something like that. And then this is a good one, and a lot of people don't do this, and I'm going to tell you why it's good. Your former staff that were happy. I mean, obviously not the pickles. You're not gonna recruit them, but the former staff that are happy. Every quarter, I just look at my and remember, I have a little bit of a turnover issue that I'm working on right now. So I look at my former staff and I think, you know, who would I want to reach back out to? And so I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I've got a position coming up that I think you'd be great for. I give the price point and kind of a little mini job description. Are you interested, or do you know anyone that might be? I probably get 2 or 3 people a year, little boomerangs that come back to me that are really successful. And what happens is the grass is not greener on the other side. And they, if I've done a really good job on Facebook or my website or my word of mouth, then they realize, oh, we're improving all the time. Oh, now we do staff lunches and we give promo items to our staff. We do more extensive training. All the different things we do that get the word out really help us a lot in terms of former happy staff. But the key on that, you can't just randomly call a staff. You have to build that relationship and set the stage ahead of time. So what I do is when they leave at the exit interview, if I can't do it, I'll have the director do it and just, you know, you're leaving with the door open. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Sincere appreciation. And then, you know, if your plans change or if the grass isn't greener, you know, that nanny job might not be quite all that it's cracked up to be. Or I get that you're going to school, but I could probably use you as my baby break person, or I could use you to help close, really leaving the door open. I can't tell you how many times staff come back and say, thank you so much for saying that. Otherwise, they would be embarrassed to come back. And then there's that culture where, you know, we want them to come back and the rest of the staff welcome them back. So, you know, having people leave as positively as possible, I try to like kind of hug it out when they go. Even, you know, if it's a negative, of course not, because that would be insincere. But if they leave on a positive note and they've given me the appropriate notice, or if they've had a family issue or something come up that's legitimate, I try to be as kind as I can. And then, so that's a good trick. And then another one is super easy, guys. You just, like for your Indeed ads, or if you're doing Newton or Workable, which a lot of my friends use those to varying degrees of success. We take a lot of time when we write our job descriptions. If you just change up the words a little bit on your title for your job description, all of a sudden the ad looks new, and all of a sudden the people that are looking at ads look and think it's something brand new or something more intriguing. So for instance, you could do an ad with all the same content, but your first 1 or 2 lines change. So maybe you want energetic or fun-loving. Maybe you want someone more responsible. Maybe someone that just left was not very responsible and didn't call in and do your proper call-in procedures. So now I'm looking for responsible. I'm going to put out, honestly, to the universe and to my candidates what I'm looking for. And then you could get creative too. So say you got a 2-year-old room and they absolutely love art. So I'm going to put out something like love purple paint, or like to dig in the mud. I do a lot of outdoor classroom activities. So when I'm putting out, want to dig in the mud, want to be covered from head to toe with dirt when you leave your job today, those kind of candidates that really dig that they like actually can't wait to go dig in the garden, they're going to come your way. Or they're going to say, hey, so-and-so friend, sorority sister, we're in the University of Virginia, so we could recruit and do recruit university students. Hey, this looks like something right up your alley. So just varying it, and just like, we try so hard to take ourselves so seriously sometimes. Professional, 4-year degree, all these CEUs, we require a lot. And I have that in my ad, but I want to grab them and intrigue them to keep reading my ad. And then the other piece is on the opposite side. I want people to self-select out if they're not going to be a candidate. So I'm still going to put my very high standards. And so if they don't have X number of years experience, or they're not going to be responsible, I don't want them to even apply. So this is my latest trick. I love it. You could do it if you're in Virginia. I don't know about all the other states. So lately, recently, Virginia requires fingerprinting. I know a lot of states have already required it, but we do it now. So guess what I do? I do this really good comprehensive phone screening first. Ask a bunch of questions, maybe about 20, and I score them on every one of the questions. And I can share this document with Kathe and anyone that would like to see it. And so I score them in. They have to reach a certain score, at least 18 points out of 20, and it's basic. Are you available? Do you, when can you start? What kind of position? It's tailored to the job description, of course. And then if I like them, before I even bring them in for the interview, I want to see if they've got any kind of stick-to-itiveness or any kind of grit. And so I'll ask them to go get their fingerprinting done, which right now in Virginia is free. Now, when I start having to pay $30, I might change my mind on this, but I'll think of something else I can have them do. And so they do the fingerprinting. It's completely done. They're legit. They're ready to go in a room. And then I bring them in for the interview. So it separates out people that are really serious about a job, and also it separates out anyone that might not pass a fingerprinting test. So that's our latest little trick at Bright Beginnings, and that works really well.
I like that.
Want me to give you a couple more? You want to go to the next question?
No, go right ahead, please. I'm sure that people have as many tricks as they can. Those were fabulous. Keep going.
Thank you. Thank you. An easy one, and this is really fun, is just to host a career fair at your school. Some of my friends do this, again, varying degrees of success. Here's what's going to help. Do it as a Facebook event, so you can yes, no, or maybe I'm going. And then you can get a lot of shares or likes. You can have your staff like and share, and your parents like and share. And then how many people are coming. Of course, they're still welcome to come, even if they haven't RSVP'd. But you're going to get a little traction on Facebook or whatever platforms you're using. And then I always have plenty, and I've only done this twice. I have plenty of staff available to chat, and a couple of administrative staff available to interview. And then hiring packets and materials about our school and our program. We have a really strong curriculum, so I would have our curriculum calendars that are really meaty with tinkering activities, outdoor classroom. We have a music specialist, so I'm going to really be heavy on what we consider the things that are unique and special about our program. Of course, everybody has things that are special about theirs, so I'd highlight that. And then always, and this sounds, again, trying not to watch those nickels go down the drain, but it's still so smart. Having goodie bags or promo materials available. So I'll give out, like if I really like them, I'll give out a shirt or a sweatshirt. It's $30. They're going to go wear them. They're organic. They're super soft. And they have our logo right on the front. Molly, my daughter, does all our promo items, and she just got really cute baseball hats for this summer. We're giving out to parents at our preschool graduation, and all our staff will wear them. And what's good about that, and you can just start right at your interview or your career fair. Hey, we're giving these hats out. We're very aware of like sun protection. We're very aware of being very holistic and being outside as much as possible. There's no bad weather, only bad clothing. So we're protecting with the UVA screening and the hats and the nice shirts. Same with the children. So that's the kind of thing. what are they going to say? Oh my gosh, I went to this great career fair at Bright Beginnings, and look what they gave me. I don't think I'm going to be able to work there because, you know, it doesn't suit my schedule, but they're going to shout it from the rooftops to their friends. They might even post it. The other thing I do, this is hilarious, when they walk in, before we even start, like if we're doing a quick group interview, I'll just ask everyone to like us on Facebook. You know, like, no shame. Hey, like us on Facebook so you can follow us. And, you know, then I get a couple more likes that way. And then and this isn't really hiring, this is our initial onboarding, which is another webinar. I'll do that at the beginning of our onboarding. They write a review about us. It's awesome. So I get a bunch of 5-star reviews right before, well, they're just starting. And that's when they're the most excited and they're the most willing to do all those extra things for you. And then the last kind of, well, I got 2 more really good tips. One is, and my good friend Rhonda in Michigan does this, and she just did it recently. She's done it twice that I know of. And she's out of Heartfelt Impressions in Detroit, the Detroit area. She piggybacks on the front of local or state early childhood conferences. She'll rent out a room and do a breakfast. She's done a cocktail party too, but the breakfast seems like it works a little bit better because people are kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning. And she'll grab them in and say something like, one good ways to get hired at a quality early childhood program, come to our breakfast for interviewing tips. So then she gets them all in a room. It's a captive audience. Quick lock the door and do some screening under not the guise, but under, like, you're adding value to them. They're going to leave with wonderful content and how to interview at a great quality program. And she might grab 1 or 2 or 5 candidates that way. I think that's a fantastic tip. It's really low cost. I mean, yes, you rent a hotel room or a meeting room. It's, you know, a few $100s, maybe it's a little more if it's during a conference, but, you know, how to interview and get hired at your dream childcare center. Super great idea. I love that one. And then well, let's see. Here's another one. We all struggle with these mommy Facebook groups. And so anytime there's some little bump that you have at your program, they're going to go online and kind of talk a little bit of trash about you. They might say, oh, the 2-year-old room, there's a lot of turnover, beware, or, you know, they'll do kind of inflammatory kind of negative comments. You want to make sure you've got some parents that are really watching that for you. And I have what I call parent ambassadors, that they'll just kind of keep me posted if there's anything negative, and then they'll respond with the truth. Hey, that's not been my experience. Hey, I find if you go talk to the director, you know, that's not, you know, they'll be very open to you. Well, by the same token, for hiring, I'll let my parents know, hey, we're looking to hire that 2-year-old teacher. Could you go ahead and post it in some of the mommy groups? And then they add the link to our website and they kind of monitor it. But I'm in the groups and I kind of monitor them, but I feel really uncomfortable going and, you know, promoting my program. That's not the purpose of those mommy groups. So I get parents involved and engaged that are ambassadors that I know will have the school's best interest.
Wow. Those were some great ideas. My brain's just buzzing right now. Before I ask the next question, a couple of questions about what you talked about. You know, here's the bean counter in me. So you talked about overhiring. Completely with you on that. I say to people all the time, when growth opportunities come your way, you need to be ready before you need to be ready, because you can make a plan, but you basically have to be opportunistic when the right opportunity comes along. And then people is often a big barrier. What would you consider the right mix of overhiring? Do you have an extra teacher on staff? Do you have somebody in the wings that could be a manager? How do you consider that?
That's such a good question, because I'm always looking at my labor costs and I'm always looking at my overtime costs, and they are creeping up, especially with minimum wage going up. And a lot of states, Virginia's much lower than a lot of states, but it's definitely an issue, and it definitely separates you out from being profitable. And of course, we have to be profitable, guys. No money, no mission. We cannot achieve what we want to do as a group and also individually for our local communities if we don't have the money. So there is absolutely no shame. In fact, our goal should be to be full, and maybe even 4 or 5% over full, because we know children call out every day. I know that's a little controversial, but I feel, you know, you got to have your eye on the dollars and cents. So for me, and it's easier if you have more than one school. So if you have 3, 4, 5 or more schools, you can hire and have staff that are just like floaters among your team, among your locations. So we have at least 2 staff that do that for us. They work in the admin office, and then when, you know, the little tsunamis hit, they're able to jump in and go into a classroom. Our goal, and remember when I talked about traction earlier, one of our goals is for our directors to be in a room less than an hour a day. That means 7 or 8 hours a day she is doing her director job, and then maybe 1 hour, which I don't hate, because she's looking at quality, she's evaluating the staff, then she's modeling best practices. So that's perfect. So the short answer would be at least 1 floater per school is ideal. One thing Alita out of Minneapolis does, Children of Tomorrow and Teachers for Tomorrow, does is she started a substitute teaching company, and it's brilliant. She was actually a shifter for Kathe in San Diego. She does an amazing job, and so it's just a separate company where they are hired to substitute for other schools, not just her schools, and that's working really well for her. When I hire substitutes like that, usually if I've done a really good job on the hiring part, I'm going to hire them permanently. It's like, shoot, I like them so much, I need them in my baby room because I just enrolled a couple more babies, and then darn it, I got to look for a sub. So again, that goes back to that initial core philosophy of you're never fully hired. Yeah, and then, but again, the bigger you are, the more flexibility you have for that. I'd say at least 1 per school, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely it's one of those advantages when you have multiple locations, especially in the same market, the sharing of staff. And I think that as long as you're near full or full, then you typically will have the luxury of an extra staff member, or, you know, it's really when you're at lower occupancies or you haven't been aggressive enough on your pricing that you get into trouble with, you know, that extra person pushes you into a salary percent that you can't afford. So all good points there. I love that you talking about getting your current staff to help recruit. You would think that they would at least be vested because they want great people to work alongside, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned 3 platforms to find people: Indeed, Newton, and Workable. Do you have a recommendation? Yes. If someone is not using one of those or wants to take a look, do you have a favorite among those?
Indeed is what most people use. It's inconsistent with the success rate. More people use it when they pay a little bit of money for the ads. You just have to stay on it and be really consistent with Indeed. The other 2 are a little bit more expensive, and my friends that have maybe 5 to 8 to 20 or 25 schools have better success with that. Honestly, if you drill down and you look at your numbers on what you spend on Indeed versus what it costs, kind of like there's an initial cost for those larger platforms, maybe a couple $1,000s depending on how many staff you're going to be recruiting in a year, and then like a monthly fee, I think. But a lot of people like both of those as well. It's mixed. I would call the sales reps on those. Indeed is kind of I think what 90% of the people use, honestly.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, so now I have a 2-part question. No, there's so much competition out there for staff right now, and it makes it much more important for us to build a culture of leadership and to help people feel good about. It's always been important in this industry because it's a tough job, and it's always been important for us to make people feel valuable and appreciated. So I know that it's even more important now. Competition with other industries is really tough, and competition among educational companies is really tough. So part A, how do you compete with, you know, people always throw out the McDonald's. They can go to McDonald's. I don't know why they just say McDonald's, but I guess it's easy. they can go to McDonald's for $15 an hour. How do I compete? And the second thing is that if we know they want in our industry, then how do you differentiate yourself against your competitors and attract those staff?
I love those are the key questions. So so the first part is just competing in our industry or other industries. And so you want to be really clear what we have. We take care of people's children. Our job is really hard, but it's really fun. We make a difference every day. And part of the making a difference is working with great colleagues. So that goes back to the staff culture and your core values. And I know we talked about core values over the last maybe 4 or 5 years just nationally. Being really clear on your core values is the first thing. We start talking core values at our first phone interview. And then the other thing would be just being really clear who you are and what you have, and being kind of boasting. I know, we're teachers and nurses, the nurturers of the world, think that they just have to serve. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. We do serve, but I think you have to shout it from the rooftops what you do really well and why, and how that differentiates you from your competition. We're not a big chain at Bright Beginnings. We're a small boutique type preschool. And, that's who we are. And this is what we stand for. And this is what we will provide for you and your family. We're hoping over many years, 5 to 10 years, if they have 2 or 3 children. And so everyone on this call can speak to that for their program. And I think they should be really proud of what they do, whether they started from scratch, whether they bought an underperforming location, whether they bought a performing location or taking it to the next level. So that part, but at the interview, and I say this to my directors because they do a lot of the initial screening, is, for instance, a nanny job. Nanny jobs are really isolating. A lot of times the parents that hire nannies kind of nickel and dime the nannies a little bit. They'll want them to, hey, can you go to the grocery store? Could you run the vacuum a little bit? Hey, my friend is coming to town. Could you watch their 4 kids too? And very often without any extra pay. So a nanny job is a pretty easy, and it's just so isolating. It's ridiculous. Same thing with being a helper or a worker in a small in-home center. In-home centers, and a lot of us started out that way, again, very isolating. It's also much more of a risk liability wise. And so I'll say things like that, like, well, the thing about in-home is, there's not an extra set of eyes or ears to make sure if something happens, that the children are safe or that you're not going to have any kind of lawsuit. Not that I want to scare someone, but just sort of open their eyes. And then you've got a lot of people we interview are CNAs or in the nursing or elder care business. And I mean, to me, that's extremely stressful. You're working with very ill people or people that, are just not vibrant like young children. And then, of course, we compete against retail or waitressing. That's easy to compete against because we don't have nights and weekends. So if you want a stable job, that is, a 7 to 3 or a 9 to 5, it's a very predictable job that you can get your children on and off the bus possibly. The big ways we compete would be free or reduced childcare. That's the easiest one. And so then you're getting maybe the mommies that are at home, they've got a teaching degree or some other type 4-year degree. They want to come in for 50 or 75% off childcare. You're going to get a lot of bang for your buck on that. And maybe they only want to work 9 to 2 or 9 to 3. Maybe even only 9 to 1. That's your core preschool hours. And you're going to be able to fill in then with those high school or college students that can come in fresh energy at 2 o'clock after nap and just rock the afternoon program for you. So then, of course, this is just easy bean counter. Pay more than everybody, at least 10% more. I mean, 10% is more. Another $1, another $2. I like to promote our training, and a lot of our training is just free training, but I'm going to get them on a system, and I'm going to make sure they're working towards that CDA, and they're working towards having a lot of training. We particularly like Texas A&M. They have really good training that's either free or $7 for the credit. And I require, remember I said I do the fingerprinting. requirement. Then before they actually start with us, I require 25 courses, not hours, 25 courses of them before they even start. And I just say, before you come in and even start, I just want you to show me that you're interested in this industry and that you're putting your time into improving yourself. And so they'll come in with quite a few training hours already. And that's just a really good differentiator. And then this is a really good one, especially when you're working with young staff, not to pick on millennials, because millennials are very savvy about the workplace. But when you're able to say, here's your pay rate, $12, $13 an hour, let's say. That's probably a standard pay rate. But I'm going to add 6 paid holidays a year. And that's, another almost $600 in the year. And I'm going to give you 50% off your 3-year-old childcare rate, which is another, honestly, $400 or $500 a month. And then I'll throw in a week vacation. And if you quantify, and you might not do all of that, you might only do 1 or 2 of those things. It's not just $12 an hour. It's these paid holidays, or it's free childcare. And then they look and they sort of get the calculator out, and I do it with them. I say, you're actually making about $18 an hour. I add the childcare in. So and I call it it's almost like a cafeteria plan. Instead of just going in and here, I'm going to make $12 an hour, you're able to really quantify for them and help them do the math. I'm actually making about 18 bucks an hour. The other piece on that is the flip side. And again, this would be somebody a little bit younger that maybe first or second job. I help them figure out the taxes. You're going to come in and make $10 an hour, but here's what I pay your part on taxes, and here's what I have to take out for you. And so this is what your paycheck will be. Because how many of us have had somebody come in and a month later they say, I can't afford this. I need to go someplace else, McDonald's, for 25 cents more, and they're not doing the math. They're just not thinking it through. And then the other piece we do, and I know a lot of my friends in the industry do, would be like the coffee stations, like free coffee, free food. We try to do the first Friday of the month, do some type of food brought in. I like to do Fridays or Mondays. Those are the bigger call-in days. So if I'm doing a staff event or something like freebie like that, Fridays or Mondays are the best times to do it. People think like middle of the week, over the hump day, but I don't have as many call outs on Wednesdays. So that's why I do it then. I like that.
Other thoughts for us? Those are fabulous.
I can do more. I just know you have more questions for me.
I know, I do. Well, I want to ask a couple of questions about that. I'm so glad to hear you say that we're doing fabulous things in our companies, and I think we're the worst at communicating those both to our parents and our staff. So it's just really important to know who you are, put that communication together, and be able to communicate it to people with confidence. I mean, I don't know how to do but one thing in the world, but I can pretty much say with confidence that I think I can help you in these areas. So know what your competitive advantages are and communicate that. I love you talking.
Kathe,
yeah.
Sorry, one thing on that, you're exactly right. We need to shout it from the rooftop. So anytime I do an event like that, I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to stage the pictures. I mean, don't have the trash can in the background, guys, and don't have, the potato salad like half eaten, or the plates, like when we do selfies at restaurants, do it before dinner starts, before like the steak's cut up on the plate and it looks gross. Same thing with your staff events. And then do a collage and staff smiling about, the lovely lunch you brought in. I just did, on Valentine's Day, every year we do a bouquet of flowers for all of our staff. And so we get them at Trader Joe's. We work with our local Trader Joe's. We try to leverage with them and cross promote. And then we even do our handyman. So how cute is that, where your little old handyman is standing with a bouquet of flowers and we're saying, we didn't forget Keith the handyman. Like just doing those kind of things. Super easy. One picture, post it.
Nice. And we know we have, and you probably do this as well, friends in the industry who use their staff and pay their staff to help them do their social media. So that's coming later, but it's a great way to keep your staff excited, to have it cost you less and your staff know more about what's going on than anyone else anyway. one comment on paying more, absolutely agree. I want you to be at the top of your market from a tuition rate standpoint. That way you can naturally be at the top of your market on your staff pay rate, so they kind of go together. You need to position yourself so that, and a lot of it's perception in the market. If you are slightly above who is your true competition, so is your pay rate, then it positions you that way in the market. So I'm in danger right now getting on that soapbox, so I'll move on. I'm going to ask one more question, then I'm going to ask, I'll put you on the spot right here because I want you to come back next month, because you have so much valuable information, and we are not going to get to the part about how the hiring process works, but so very important. So competition with other, how do you, so there are other quality childcare companies in your market, and people have made the decision to work in this industry. And maybe you answered some of this as you were talking about other industries, but how do you talk to people about, you know, the advantages of your company?
I love that question. And that's, again, that goes back to everyone being really clear. 2 feet on the ground is how I always talk to my directors. Say, like, be really clear who you are and why you're better. Why are you at our school? So you want to be able to be really clear. Hey, I'm at Bright Beginnings because it's a career path. I've got a fabulous director named Lauren, and she came in, she had 5 years experience in another childcare center, another good one in our area. And she just wasn't growing enough. The owner was very hands-on and didn't let her try to do anything new. So she came in really liking our career ladder. And so for teachers or directors, I think it's really important that, you know, yes, you pay them as much as you can. Yes, you give them promo items, the coffee mugs, the t-shirts and whatnot. But then you put your money where your mouth is and you take them to conferences. I've just brought 3 of my staff to Kathe's conference in San Diego, and 2 of our staff to the Nashville conference. So doing things like that really differentiates you. It's amazing spending a couple extra $1,000s to go to something, and that's high. You know, for Virginia to go to California, that's a little bit higher, but sometimes you can drive to them. And really, you know, making them feel really important and special to be able to get that training. And then we try, people like attention. They like that eyeball to eyeball. There's an old study, and we can talk about this another time too, which is called floor time. It's a psychologist that talks to parents about how much time they should spend with each child a day. And I've adapted floor time to my staff. And so I want our directors to eyeball every staff every day with not just a how's it going, I really don't care how it's going. How are you doing? What can I help you with? You know, kind of what do you need? But then, of course, you want to target it to the right time of the day to ask those questions, and that you would be present to answer them. Present and willing to answer the questions. So, so having regular career ladder meetings is something really important. And I start that with the directors, because if they're happy, and I model that for my directors or my admin team, then they know exactly how to speak with the staff when they're doing that. So everybody kind of staying in their lane. And then the easy things, and a lot of people do this, so this is probably a little review for most of the clients on the call. Tour takeover. You want, again, 2 feet on the ground, them to be really proud of what they're doing in their room. The director should know exactly what wonderful things are going on in every single classroom. So maybe one particular teacher is amazing at a Montessori style early childhood, like literacy. And someone else is wonderful at just sensory motor all over the place. The room's a mess. It's just sensory. And so I want those teachers to be really comfortable doing a tour takeover with my directors, and that they are able to get the kudos from the director that, hey, I really am counting on you to help me with this tour. And so just, again, that appreciation. The obvious one would be the 5 languages of appreciation, and that's having to do with for employees. We did that a couple weeks ago with all of our staff, and we talked out loud about what our language is, and then the opposite. What is your language? What isn't your language? So my language of appreciation, I love words, and I like time, quality time. I also like gifts a little bit, but that's probably my third. So what I don't care about is somebody coming and helping me with something, because I've got that. But so then think about it like this. Then if I think, you tend to think about the way you feel. So I think when I kudos someone and I give them a pat on the back, or I say, oh my gosh, that room looked fabulous, and they don't care about words of appreciation, they really want me to come in and sweep up after snack, that's the appreciation. So really knowing and being clear with your staff from the get-go is huge. And then having building residents, Carol Gatewood and Andrea Brown out of Michigan do that amazingly well. So and you kind of alluded to it about the Facebook post, a couple other people in the industry do this really well too. Ariane Batazzi from Carmel Mountain Preschool, for instance. Really having staff, you want them to go to work every day and love their job. So if they love gardening, they should be a gardener. If they love social media, they should be Facebook posting and social media pictures on all your platforms. If they love cooking and organic food and baking bread, there you go, you got that. So I just try to make sure I know a lot about all my staff. And so how can someone down the street compete with that? Like, I really care about my staff, and more power to them. If they care about their staff a lot too, great. Then the staff have a couple good choices of quality programs to go to.
Love it. I'm so glad to hear you mention the tour. I have toured, I don't know how many schools across the country, and probably could count on one hand the number of blow-away secret shopping tours I've been given. But one of the things that's so valuable to both the person you're touring and your staff is when you go to that room and introduce Miss Mary, tell me something special about Miss Mary in front of her. She gets recognition. You get to hear great things about the staff, and everyone wins. So we have some questions here, if you're okay with me hitting with some questions. So consider not driving staff too thin, could hurt your culture. Look at your operational expenses. Yeah, so don't consider not to drive your staff too thin. Good point. And Kathe, you touched on this really well, that it not only damages the people who are there and they're all really scrambling to cover your current business, but also you're not building your team in case you have someone leave and they're not always scrapping to get everything done. What were the names of the recruiting sites you referenced other than Indeed?
Newton, 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 and Workable.
And all of these, Kathe, are a platform where you would post a specific position. You probably pay for the service, and then people go to Indeed or Workable and they apply for jobs directly there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Some of them cross-pollinate across a lot of other platforms, like they'll go to Monster Jobs and all different ones. I mean, also a lot of people, I think LinkedIn is something we don't do very well in our industry. It tends to be more like banking and like the big top 500 companies. But I think our industry could look at LinkedIn more closely in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm starting to see LinkedIn and Facebook and other platforms like that used a lot more for recruiting. So good one there. How do you handle staff call-offs, repetitive staff call-offs? Is there a progressive self-termination process? If so, can you give us some creative ideas? So we'll take this one as the last question. This one's a toughie, so we'll see what we can.
It's a good one. We need to do another one on that, because the first piece on that is you have to be really careful about unemployment. You want to make sure that your hiring processes and your hiring, your contract and your staff manual and all your procedures address that, so that if they call out, that it's considered a job abandonment. And so if you have that in place, that's really easy to just exit them out. But you've got to have proof. Otherwise, how I handle call-in is being overstaffed. That's the only way to go. And then also with my career ladder, one of the things they get evaluated on every quarter, and we do career ladders every quarter, is their attendance. You know, we need you here and your beautiful face every day, fresh and ready to go with those kiddos. we know things come up, and of course we're reasonable people, and you know, if someone has something come up, absolutely I'm going to support that. But that's not what this caller's asking about. So I would, you know, be really clear again on your procedures and your policies, what is too much, and then call them out on it. So many times, again, we're caring, we're just like nurturers. So we, you know, we understand all the nuances about all the reasons, but no, what's best for the program and best for the children, and I always trickle it right back down to the children. What's best for the children? Sometimes it's best if that person goes on down to the next, probably not preschool, they probably shouldn't be in this industry, but if they are not with us. And so that would be what I'd call good turnover. One thing I do now, oh, this is a good one, Kathe. I do temp to hire. So it's just languaging. So I hire you, I say, I think it's going to be a great fit. We can't wait to get started. Here's what we need to have you do to get started. Here's some training. You need to come, it's paid. Come to initial onboarding. And let's try you out for a couple weeks. I'm going to keep looking, and you keep looking too, no problem. I'll tell you what, they get so engaged because they think now the first couple weeks, that's when they're the most open or fresh. You think about when you go to your first college class, you go to freshman English. You're like, you're going to rock it. You know, you're going to pay attention to what the teacher asks. You're going to do all the homework. You're going to raise your hand in class. That's what I do now too with the temp to hire. I can't tell you how well that's working. Then they, in a week or two, oh, I'm not looking anyplace else. I really like it here. And you get that engagement right away. And then you can kind of wrap it up and say, oh, I agree. We love having you. So attempt to hire has been a little trick. And that's just kind of a sub answer to that question. But I don't tolerate a lot of call outs.
Yeah, I love that. I know there's a real fear-based mentality in the industry right now, and in some cases people are really letting the staff run the company instead of them running the company, and I get it, because they have to have people there, and what actually ends up happening though is those people lose respect, and you don't have the right people, and it's just a snowball effect. So I agree with you. We could do a whole session on that. Would you please be my guest again next month? Unless
of course.
Now, do you know how much I love that we did not get through this content? Because there are so many frustrated people out there about finding the right people and then how to actually get them hired and show up for the interview. Yes, it's a real thing. And I love Vernon Mason's very creative idea about when you text them to remind them about the interview, you tell them about something wonderful that's going on in your school at the same time, something really fun.
Yes. Love it.
Go ahead and throw that out. We'll use that again next time. But would you join me again next time? We will set the date at your convenience.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Love and we will pick this up with part 2 on how to take this from initial interest to them actually being hired. That process, how to be sure you get the right person, ask the right questions, and I know you have some of your own resources that you're willing to share with people about. Yes. What the questions might be and what the process is. So we have lots more questions, so Kathe and I will put our heads together and look on our Facebook page for answers to these questions. Reach out to us individually if you have an immediate need. And we would be more than happy to help you guys. And our mission is to help you be as strong as you can possibly be. And love what Kathe said about every single decision you make can be broken down into what is good for the children. Every single decision. Yeah. And if you have that intent, everything else comes out right.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kathe. Thank you, friends, for joining us.
Thank you.
We talked about a few of the people who are on our masterclass right now. So thank you for allowing us to use you as a positive example, because there are some fabulous things going on in the industry. And we'll look forward to sharing more. Be back with you on the new date for next month, and we'll pick up part 2 of this conversation.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody.
And friends.